Alright, I should be back on, I think. Let me know if you can see me though. Back in business, that's good. That was a nice little interval, nice little break, thank you. Lesson 1, don't fuck about with OBS while you're live streaming, do it beforehand. So, apologies, thank you for sticking with me. Anyway, I'll get better at it for next time, no worries. Cool, anyway, we were talking about Emotet JavaScript downloaders. So let me kind of showcase to you this particular sample. We'll talk through it, and if anything else we can go through as well, that'd be cool. And then I think we'll probably call it a night after this one. We'll see how it goes. So this one really similar in terms of Visual Basic. You know, Word Office document, trying to lure people to click enable macros, all the usual kind of bullshit we're used to. But in this case, it drops a file by the looks of things, and we need to kind of I'll show you how to kind of pull the file contents here from Visual Basic, and you know, we'll perform some analysis on the JavaScript, and you can see what it's kind of doing. So if we run this one, I got the processes being created on my filters here. We'll run the malware, just enable content. And we get a pop-up saying we can't see, what does it say? We cannot open this document. Which looks like a custom message box, right? It's not like a real error message. So we can, that's like something we can go looking for in the actual code to see what it was actually doing at that point. So click OK. Have a look in Burp Suite just to see whether it captured any traffic. What's going on with Burp Suite? Burp Suite's killing me. Doesn't look like Burp Suite's captured anything, and I didn't expect it to. If I saw, when you see like WScript fire, you can see WinWord is firing WScript. WScript doesn't really obey the proxy, so so we'll grab it from the Visual Basic. Let me kill Process Monitor for now. Let's have a look at the code. Right, so we got a document open here. We can see as well we got a user form in the macro. Have a look at that, and you can see as well straight away there's a, you know, what looks to be, you know, a variable, some code in there, which is obviously of interest to us. But let's have a look and see what the code's kind of doing, if we can kind of eyeball it. There's a lot of noise in here, as you can imagine. Strings being declared. Userform1.textbox.text is being assigned to this variable here. So let's see what it's doing with it. You can see here it's being written to something, and presumably this is going to be a file. Yeah, you can see file system object being created, create object, create text file, and it's going to write the contents of that text file, and then close it. Shell application, create object, shell execute. So it's going to execute it there, and then that subroutine at the bottom just looks like bullshit to me. What's it doing in the middle? You can see here's where it sets the name, the JSE. Looks like at first glance it's going to save it in the user profile folder. Cool. Yeah, environment S300. S300 is 100 plus 200, and that is user profile. So it's going to get the user profile from the environment variable, save it there. Looks like it's going to save it as a random number .jse, and then execute it. So what you can do, what I quite like doing in Visual Basic, is you can dump stuff out using the debug window. So press Control and G, you'll get your immediate window come up. So this is the shit that's being written to the text file. So you could do debug.print and then that there, and then you can like comment out the rest of the code if you wanted to, or probably best off just comment out the execution point. Let's save it. I didn't enable macros when I open the document, and then we'll reopen it, enable macros, and let that fire, and then we can pull out the JSE then. Enable, good. So let's go back into our dev window. We can see the debug.print printed out the contents. Also, if we go to my users folder, this is Win786 here, you can see the JSE has been written, but it's not executed it because we blanked out that line of code, right? My virtual machine's running really slow, but we get it. So it's 27 kilobytes. That's always a good sign that we've written something. I am using a virtual machine. See, there's a question in the chat, but I'm definitely using a virtual machine. I do tend to look at stuff on my host, but like text file stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'd never execute anything on my host, obviously. So here we can see the contents of the file. What we could do. Let's get Sublime Text open here. We'll stick it in Sublime. This is on my host, right? So this is not on a virtual machine right now. But I'm not going to run this malware. I'm just going to poke around it. And the only reason I've copied it from my virtual machine, my Windows machine, to my MacBook is because it feels a little bit more native. So let's call this like output.jse. And we'll change the view syntax just to highlight it as JavaScript, just so it looks prettier. Make it pretty. Use the plugin. So it looks pretty heavy. Tidy it up a little bit, and we can try and see what's going on. All right. One of the things, like what I like about Sublime Text, is it gives you this kind of map down the side, right, of where you are, and you can kind of see the structure of the code straight away, which is good. So you can kind of eyeball like how big this file is and like where the meaty bits of sections are and stuff like that. But I tend to just eyeball it first, so I can see straight away I've got this massive big array which is just called A. Right at the top, looks like there's a function here which is self-invoking, and there's two parameters passed. So A is passed into this function as well as this parameter here, 0xEA. So that doesn't look like it does too much except for push the array around and shift the values around, but maybe we'll look at that in a second. And then B, this function looks a little bit more meaty. A little trick I like to use, you can see here that like I've highlighted the opening bracket of this function. If you press Control and M, you'll just switch to the closing bracket, so you can see where the bottom of the function is. And you kind of know what you're dealing with then, if it's like something meaty or something that's doing less important, less noisy or what have you. But we'll come to that. Looks like a decoding function. I can see there's an alphabet in here. Maybe it's got like your A to B is like base 64 decoding. There's also loads of other shit going on as well. I don't really want to reverse engineer that, but we can definitely use that function. There's a few strings I tend to just kind of look for straight away when I'm looking in code like this, where you can see it's all what's the word, like either packed or minified or obfuscated, whatever you want to call it. What I'm seeing straight away though is that there's lots of these, like B open brackets, 2 parameters passed into the function, B 2 more parameters passed into whatever that function is, and that's the first function. The second function over here. So no doubt that is some kind of important decryption function, and we'll try and have a look and see what that can, what we can kind of pull out of that in just a second. A couple of strings I tend to look for. First off, I look for like run, stuff like that. I can't find run, although probably best to take my character, case and sensitivity off. You can look for like exe, so you can see here .exe in a line of code. So that might be where the file name is generated if it's going to pull down an exe. And you can see here that like quite commonly you'll find like random file names being generated using math functions. So that might be of interest to us. Response text, I always usually go for like response, and you can see here response text. So that's probably, this is I would imagine, and you can see here actually the server XML HTTP request, the object being created and all the parameters being pushed to that kind of function. This is probably the response text being saved in this variable. It's going to open a file, no doubt, position 0, and then no doubt we'll write to it. Get file and read line. We'll come back to that. It looks quite interesting. What else we got? Oh, we got here CMD. It's one of the other strings I'd like to go for. CMD, that'll be obviously the command that gets executed, no doubt, once the badness has actually been downloaded. What else we got? Loads of shit. The other string I tend to look for is HTTP as well. And quite nicely, this gets us a C2. So that's I guess one of the first indicators of compromise from this particular sample would be that particular domain name and path and what have you. So one to get blocking. All right, I'm quite interested in this B stuff though. So let me show you a little trick that may or may not work. We'll have a look. So I tend to use CyberChef for everything, like my text manipulation and stuff, as I kind of alluded to before. So let's paste the contents of the file into CyberChef, and I just want to get all of the B's out, all of the parameters that are being passed to this B function. So let me see if I can. I'm really rubbish at regular expressions, but let me see if I can come up with something that might work. I want to list the matches. So anything that starts with B bracket, let me see, B bracket, shit. Anything in the middle, and then where is it? One of them and a close bracket. Oh, we want to make it greedy. There, right. So they look alright. Oh no, shit. What's up with that one? Let me see. Oh, that's annoying. So my regular expression worked, but this value here is a little bit, tricks us a little bit. I can live with that. What we can then do, this is just, I know this is not malicious, right? Because this is just pushing and shifting A. And then B, we're going to hope is our decoder. So let's extract these variables here and those functions. Let me put it into like test.js. And then we can abuse this. What we can actually do, this will be better actually, find and replace. No, let's do regex. Let's find B. Yeah, and replace it with console.log. Yeah, B that. And let's do another find and replace. That. There we go. So what we could do is do that, and hopefully they'll spit out for us. You can see there's one or two there that we probably have to correct manually. Well, that's fine. Let me do that. Same one. Okay. What else we got? Everything else okay? Yeah, looks good. Let me see if I got. I never remember if I got Node.js installed on this computer, on this virtual machine or not. Yeah, looks good. So let's copy that file over to our virtual machine then, and then see whether we can output all of that stuff that gets fed into that B function. Let me see. Of course, my virtual machine's about to die. Come on. Right, got it. It's just running really slow. Let me see if I can kill some processes on this virtual machine. I might even have to restart the virtual machine real quick. Let me kill W script. That's right, let's try and run this. Hey, here we go. Alright, and let's go back in here. Let's open our output and see what all the shit was that was being fed into. So these strings like exec, a few other strings. You can see function stuff, constructor this. Ooh, console. That's interesting. Console log warn info debug. Do you know what? I bet you any money the sample is rewriting the function definition for like console.log. So if you try and console.log stuff within this, it'll probably reroute you and play with you. We'll have a look at that. That's the error message we saw, which is good. Select star from Info82 process stop trace. That looks like that would usually be like when malware is looking to see when a process is terminated. Oh, you can see here, right? Look at this. There's 4 more URLs that were encoded. So that's good. Post, response body, save to file. Yeah, all the usual stuff, really. Cool. So let's have a look. Oh, let me see if it's got console. Yeah, look, console.log equals AS. What's AS? Var AS equals function, and there's nothing in it. That's brilliant from a malware point of view. So that's something which, if you tried to debug this code, like, I don't know, if you just did like console.log C or whatever, because you wanted to spit the value of C out in the browser, it would send you back down to that this function, and it would rewrite it, and it would be a blank function, so it would just hang. It wouldn't actually give you anything. So that's really clever, actually. I quite like that. Okay, so we got all the shit that is being fed into that decoding routine, which is good. Where did we see the HTTP? Let me see. Oh, we saw it here, right? So regulars.com. So this one, this one, this one, and that one, that's an array. I bet you, so I imagine that's all of the other URLs that we managed to pull out. So if you only kind of statically analyze this file, you'd pull out one indicator, one network indicator, but actually it's got like 4 or 5 more, whatever it was. They're saved in BP. So let's have a look and see what BP does. Where did it go? Here. Send. All right, I see. So it's gonna, yeah. So it's just gonna hit the array, write the response text. Position 0. Let's write it to a file. Where's the file name? That's interesting. I want to know what this does. Let's do these again. So it's gonna. It looks like it downloads the file, writes the response text from position 0. It's gonna write it into this BI, right? And BI is this like random file name .exe. Why does it read line 002? So what's this one? Get rid of these. And copy this to the virtual machine again. Substring, okay. So read line substring 0. Oh, I see. So it's going to go to this second. What's this one? Let me edit it here. This is why I don't like Sublime Text on my virtual machine in Windows, because it's just so, it feels like I'm in a virtual machine. It doesn't feel like I'm on a native environment. Console.log. Right, let's run that bad boy. This one. Open as text stream. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, I see. Okay, so it's reading the first 2 bytes of the file by the looks of things. And what's this one? Get file bi size, and then what's it doing? Close. Of course it's fucking closing. What's this if block? If bo, so if the read line equals bh, what's bh? Ad. Fucking hell. What's ad? Ad equals loads of shit. I don't really want to. Oh, bh mz. I saw that before, right? Alright, so I see. So if bo equals equals bh, so it's going to read the first 2 bytes of the downloaded file and compare it for compare the first 2 bytes for mz. Oh, it's a different bh. That's why you idiot. So it's going to look for an mz header. Well, that makes sense. I see what it's doing now. So it's going to pull down. We've got an array of, what was it, 5 or 6 URLs, and it's going to hit each URL. It's going to pull down the content, write it to a file. It's going to call it a randomname.exe, and then it's going to look at what it's just written and see whether the first 2 bytes are an MZ header, which is obviously the first 2 bytes of an executable. If it does that, I'm presuming it's just going to run it. If they're not an MZ header, I presume it's going to go and try the next one in the array, which is, I'm making an assumption, but that's probably what's going to happen. So what else is it going to do? We're towards the end here, I reckon. Yeah, I think it just runs it. It uses command.c, command/c, and just going to execute it. So I think we've pulled out pretty much everything we can from this JS. Well, it looks tricky, but I think if you try to debug this in the browser, or if you try to debug this code without extracting some of the functions, it would have you chasing your tail, because it rewrites those functions at console.log and stuff like that. So it's quite clever, that. I've not seen that before. Cool. Alrighty, what did we get here then? Let me try and run this. I'll tell you what I'll do, just out of interest. I'm going to run it from using Microsoft Network Monitor and see what we saw from a network perspective. And then we'll probably wrap it up. Come on. Probably doesn't help that I run, all my tools are really, really old. Alright, let's run that JSE file. We've got the message, so I know it ran. And you can see here, it's a wscript.exe. This is what I like about Microsoft Netmon, is the fact that it gives you the process name that generated the traffic, and you can see the conversation straight away. So these are separate. You can see whatever it is .com, the second one, linkcon.com. What's this one? That's the other one we saw, right? Bell and Joiner, and Regulars.com. So it's hit each one of those, and it probably hasn't found anything, because no doubt they're down. Let's go back to our. I'm interested to see whether we could pull a binary from any of these. yeah, nothing found. Yeah, so no doubt these have been taken down already, but that is what it is. Cool. Alright guys, well I think that's pretty much all I was going to show you from a malware point of view today. Let me just have a look through the chat, see what I've missed. Everyone really liking the stream. I'm really enjoying the stream, to be honest with you. I can't believe 90 people are watching me right now. This is just insane. And there's people in the chat saying they're full-blown noobs. So I'm definitely a full-blown noob to streaming, as you can probably have told from today's shenanigans. All good. Let me see any questions coming on. Am I self-taught? You notice there's edX and stuff on my blog. Well, firstly, thank you for reading my blog. That's very kind of you. A lot of it is self-taught. I think the initial kind of entry into malware analysis and just general kind of incident response was as a result of a curious mind of breaking things and wanting to kind of piece together like how things work and how malware operates. And I was fortunate enough in my previous employer to have worked with some exceptional individuals who really grew my knowledge exponentially. And they were based all around the world, and I had a fantastic time working with them. And also I got some, I was again fortunate enough to go through SANS training, which I know is ridiculously expensive, but I found it amazing. What I thought off the back of that, when I went through the SANS training, was how inspiring it was to be around people who would share their knowledge and share their skills. And that's kind of really driven me to start this channel and obviously start these live streams and stuff and kind of impart the kind of knowledge that is super expensive to go and learn on a formal basis. But all this kind of stuff is, realistically stuff that people would do in the wild in a day-to-day basis when they're analyzing malware anyway. So it's good to kind of go through it with you guys. I see a question saying, will there be more live streams in the future? Absolutely. This is hopefully the start of many. Easier for me to live stream than it is to produce a video. So hopefully if I've got some interesting things to talk about, then yeah, there'll be more live streams, on a next week or next 2 weeks, something like that. Simon, there's only one color in this household, and that's red. So there we go. But listen, I really appreciate the love tonight, guys. Thank you for bearing with me whilst I've been messing about with the stream settings and all the rest of it. I'm going to kill it for tonight. I'm going to make my wife some dinner, and I'm going to enjoy the fact that I've executed my first live stream and it hasn't gone completely terrible. So thank you very much, guys. Take it easy. Peace out.